Hi folks, my name's Ashley. I'm one of the founders of Skira, and today I'm going to show you how Construct 3's new JavaScript coding feature works. This was added in our latest release and we're pretty excited about it. Let me show you how to get started with it. Here's a very simple demo to kick things off. We've just got a button which says show message, and when the button is clicked, this is using the event sheet here, and now I can add my first line of JavaScript code using the menu here, add script, and I'm going to use the alert function which just shows a message box. And traditionally your first message, your first program will just say the words hello world. And now if I run this project and click the button, you can see a pop-up appears which says hello world, and there you go. That's your first line of JavaScript. We think it couldn't be easier than that. It's a great way to learn to code. Of course, you can do a lot more than that. Let's move on to calling a different function. So you can also now in the project bar add a JavaScript file. So if we right click here and choose add script, this now adds a JavaScript file to the project. It fills out some sort of boilerplate code to help you get started, but we don't need that. So I'm just going to delete all of that, and I'm going to add a function in JavaScript which I'll call show message, and takes a parameter called message, and this will itself call alert, and I'm just going to put a little prefix to the message there. There we go. It's worth mentioning, I'm not going to teach you how to program JavaScript in this video. There's lots of resources on the internet about how to learn the JavaScript language. I'm just going to show you how it's integrated into Construct here. So hopefully you have some familiarity with JavaScript. If you don't, hopefully this will still make sense. So all I've done here is I've created a very simple JavaScript function called showMessage in a JavaScript file called script.js, and now I can call this function from the event sheet as well. So here I'm going to replace this with a call to the custom function, and again I'm going to say hello world. And this is showing you how you can very closely integrate Construct's event block system with JavaScript files as well. So there's lots of ways to integrate the two. You can mix and match and use event blocks or JavaScript depending on which is most suitable, or you can use all just events or just JavaScript code. I'll go into more detail about the options later on. Anyway, coming back to our demo here, we've got a button which is, when it's clicked, it will call a function show message, which will then run this function and show an alert with my message in front of it. Now, when I run this and I click the button, and the alert has appeared, and it's got my message in front of it as well. So there you have it. That's showing how events can call into script, and they can also go vice versa. Now, just to show you one of the many ways you can also integrate the event sheet with JavaScript, you can also access global variables. So here I'm going to add a global variable in the event sheet, which I'm going to call my global. It's worth remembering that the event sheet is kind of a different world to the JavaScript file. This is a global variable in the event sheet which isn't directly accessible in JavaScript. It's not the same thing as a JavaScript global variable, but you can still access it from script, which I'll show you now. So I'm going to change the message. Actually, I'm going to initialize this to 123, just to show that it's going to be reading this number and not something else. And I'm going to make the message say my global equals, and now I'm going to add the contents of that global variable. So the way to do that is with a special variable called runtime, which is always available in scripts in the event sheet. and that has a special property called global vars, which has all the global variables in the event sheet, and that will have a property called myGlobal, which is the name of this global variable here in the event sheet. So that will now read the value 123 and add it to this string, which will also convert it to a string. And if I run that and click the button, it now shows an alert with the message myGlobal equals 123, which has read the value from the event sheet here. So that shows you how you can pass values from the event sheet into JavaScript. That's one of the options you have. You can also use JavaScript to write to global variables. Let me show you another demo of that. So this time I've got a button and a text object, and when you click the button it's initialized to 123, but when you click the button it will assign myGlobal to 456, and it uses runtime.globalvars.myGlobal to access this global in the event sheet, and then immediately after that the next action will read that global variable and put it into a text object, so that will show that it's been changed. So now if I run this and I click the button, it says myGlobal is 456, which is where what it was assigned to in JavaScript. So that shows you how you can also pass values back from JavaScript into the event sheet. And again, there are more ways of doing it. That's just one example. Next up, I'm going to show you how you can a slightly more advanced example. It's using JavaScript to move a sprite. And this shows you how you can use JavaScript to access objects in your construct project as well. So now we've got a button and a sprite object, a little pig character who we all like. And this time in the event sheet, we don't actually need that. Oops. When the button is clicked, it's going to run this little block of JavaScript here. And all the objects in your project are available through the runtime.objects property. And this refers to all the object types. And so when you use runtime.objects.sprite, that refers to the sprite object type. And this has a method called getFirstInstance. You can find all the methods documented in the scripting section of the manual now. And so when you call this, this will return the first instance of that object type, because in construct all object types can have multiple instances. For example, you could have 10 pig instances of the sprite, but there's only one, so we just get the first one and store that into the instance variable. And then the next line will simply increment its x property by 50, so this will have the effect of moving it to the right by 50 pixels. So now if we run this and click the button, we can see the sprite moving to the right every time we click the button. So this shows you how you can also interact with the objects in your project using JavaScript, and we have a full set of APIs to be able to change things in your project and control things using script. That is powerful enough to control your entire project using only script, so you don't have to use any event sheets. So my next demo will control the player. So here we have a simple player object taken from the Ghost Shooter demo, and we have a script file which just controls it using the arrow keys. So if I run this to show you what it does, I'm just using the arrow keys on the keyboard to move it around. This demo has no events. It's only done using JavaScript to show you how you can use JavaScript to control your game. And here we have a tick function which runs every tick in the game, or every step as it's sometimes called. And so this function is very much like an every tick event in an event sheet. And again, we get the player instance. dt is delta time, which refers to how far to move this step, There's also the keyboard object for keyboard input, and the player speed is 200 pixels per second. So here we just check if the right arrow key is down, then we move the player to the right, and we also set the angle to 0, which is facing right, so they point in the direction they're moving in. And then we do that again for moving left, and for moving down, and for moving up. So this just shows you how you can use JavaScript to control the game without any events at all. There's enough features in the scripting capability and construct to control your entire game. And really, to take this to its conclusion, there's the in the scripting section of the start page, there's the Go Shooter code example. And this is the familiar Ghost Shooter demo, which you may have seen before. It's just a very simple kind of game. And this is, again, written entirely in JavaScript without using any events at all. It's not even using any behaviors like the bullet behavior, which is quite a sort of extreme step to take in a way, because often they're useful and you could just use a behavior to simplify the code. But the point of this demo is to show that you can do everything in JavaScript if you want to. So if you're the kind of person who prefers to program everything, that option is available. So this uses 4 different JavaScript files. There's the startup file, which does initialization and sets things up ready for the game. There's the main file, which does the every tick logic again and does things like testing collisions, moving the player, and checking for collisions, and a couple of other things like firing the bullets. There's a special class for the monster. This is so we're using a custom class, JavaScript class, to represent the instances of the monster object, which is the enemy in the game. This is using a feature called subclassing, and it means we can have like our own move method on the monster instance. So it's a useful way to write your custom logic for objects in JavaScript. Next, there's the utilities file. This just has some sort of math helpers. For example, here's a function which calculates the angle between 2 points. These things might be useful in your own JavaScript code. So feel free to copy them if it's helpful to you. So have a look around at this demo, and you can see in more detail how you can use JavaScript to code a full game. And lastly, I'm just going to touch on one more thing, which is that you can also use the browser's development tools to debug your game. So these are full, powerful development tools which has all your JavaScript code available down the side here. And you can do things like set a breakpoint, which will pause execution when it reaches that point, and I've put a breakpoint when a bullet collides with the monster there. And now if I find a monster and shoot it, the debugger will stop on that line of code, and you can hover the mouse over to have a look at all the variables. What's the monster speed? It's currently 80. You can click some of the properties to see all the properties of the object and have an explore around, check everything out, and then you can run the script line by line and see how everything changes. See, now the monster speed is 81 because it got incremented. And so these are really powerful development tools. There's performance profilers, memory analyzers, you can watch network activity. There's a full set of tools there. It's really powerful. So that's the kind of thing, as an advanced user, you'll that will become really useful, and you'll learn how to use debugging and other development tools to understand your code. So it's a really powerful, capable tool available to you there. Oops, I'm dead. So that's all I'm going to cover in this video. I've covered mostly how JavaScript works in construct and how it integrates with the event sheets. I've only scratched the surface. There is plenty more to learn, You can check out the other demos in the start page. There's a couple of other demos here. We'll be adding more in future. And in the manual, you'll be able to find the new scripting section, which covers how the JavaScript coding feature works in full, how it integrates with Construct. And there's a reference section which covers all the events and functions that you can call, and so you can explore all the features that are available. And we'll be expanding this over time as well. So that's all for now. Stay tuned for more updates, and we hope you enjoy the future.